Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Lisa Clark. I'm the sales manager here at RiverWoods Exeter, and you are joining our webinar entitled Connecting Your Purpose and Passion at RiverWoods. And this is, in the next hour, going to be all about what there is to do to be involved in clubs and committees at RiverWoods Exeter. We have some incredible panelists lined up, people who are living, breathing RiverWoods Exeter every day and are super involved in committees and clubs within the community. Now, some of you on the webinar today are already on our wait list, so you're familiar with who RiverWoods is, but there may be other people joining who are learning about us for the first time. So as we usually do with our webinars, we're going to talk a little bit about who we are and what a continuing care retirement community is. As I am working to advance the slide, a few housekeeping products. We have everybody on mute, but we do welcome your questions. Questions will be submitted through the Q&A box at the bottom of your screen. We're going to hold until the end of the session to answer those questions. We always welcome suggestions on how we can improve these webinars. And if you have an idea for a future topic, please let us know. The very topic today actually was suggested to us by someone who was on the RiverWoods wait list. She suggested this. And so this is the first time we've actually done a webinar on this particular topic. So we'll start with just talking about what is a CCRC. So RiverWoods is what's known as a continuing care retirement community, and we are actually an insurance product. We're a long-term care insurance product where our contracts are regulated by the state in which we operate. We report our financial performance to the state annually. And when you come and live here as an independent resident, you're actually prepaying and insuring your potential for assisted living, memory support, or nursing needs. And because of that, a portion of your entry fee and monthly fee may be tax deductible depending upon your particular tax situation. So coming to a community like RiverWoods is really a lifestyle choice. You move in while you're still living independently. We take care of everything, so you don't have to maintain your home anymore. We take care of transportation, getting you to medical appointments, to the grocery, to cultural events. And there's a whole host of activities to choose from, some of which you'll hear about in the coming hour. So it really gives you increased options for socialization, which is so healthy to aging, and really allows you to really stay in control of your life because you'll have this whole web of social opportunities as well as the peace of mind of healthcare. We were founded by these two visionary women who back in the 80s really started planning for RiverWoods. They looked around the seacoast area and really didn't see any solutions for where people could meet new friends and get involved in causes that they care about and not have to worry about their future healthcare needs. Mariana Hatch of Durham and Rosemary Coffin of Exeter got together and created the concept and then put it into action to open RiverWoods Exeter in 1994. We have not just RiverWoods Exeter here, but we have two other communities and I'm having trouble getting my slide to advance. There we go. So we have RiverWoods Exeter, which you're seeing on the far left, has 3 campuses here in the Exeter community. RiverWoods Manchester, we opened or acquired from another company in 2016, and we rebranded it as RiverWoods in 2021. And then RiverWoods Durham was a new community that we built in 2019. So all 3 of these communities share the same values. They are governed by a CCRC board, and again, that stands for Continuing Care Retirement Community. So the board, which includes some of our residents on this board, really takes care of focusing on operations and strategy for the organization. They consult with not only the system CEO, the RiverWoods CEO, Justine Vogel, but also the executive directors of each of our 3 communities. And they report into a system board of trustees that's really focused on our overall mission and future growth of the RiverWoods company. The RiverWoods Group is our supporting organization. They provide professional fee-based services and support to each of our 3 communities. They provide some shared service functions that include finance, information technology, human resources, marketing, and quality. And they're also able to fund any at-risk portion of projects within our 3 communities and new ventures, such as a new healthcare campus that we'll be building here in Exeter. The communities are each financially independent. It's important to note, and each has an annual opportunity to provide additional funding to the RiverWoods Group for special projects. So that was a little bit about RiverWoods. And now I'd like to introduce our moderator for today, Deanna Graham, who is the Director of Community Engagement here at RiverWoods Exeter. And Deanna has a pretty broad scope of responsibilities here at RiverWoods Exeter. She oversees the fitness team. She oversees the life engagement team, campus services, which provides our transportation. She also oversees our housekeeping department, events that we have happening on campus, as well as our resident IT person who supports our residents' IT needs. So she's got a lot of irons in the fire and a lot of things to keep an eye on here at RiverWoods. Deanna actually has a bachelor's degree in exercise science and with a concentration in fitness leadership. And has a really strong background in fostering community connections and promoting holistic well-being. So she's a very apt moderator for today's panel. So I'm going to turn it over to Deanna.
Thank you so much, Lisa. Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. So to dive right in, the first thing that I want to explain to you is a little bit about committees, task forces, and interest groups, kind of what that means. But the number one thing is letting you know that as a future or prospective resident, none of this is mandatory. This is an option that is available to you to get involved here at RiverWoods, but it is not a requirement of being a resident. And so I want to make sure that is very clear that this is only if you wish to do these things. So committee is very formal. They have a mission statement that has been approved by the resident council. They have a chair that is elected. They meet on a consistent basis and have an annual budget. So a committee is what we're mostly going to talk about today, but essentially it is a formal process that supports RiverWoods as an organization. We then also have task forces, and task forces tend to be, we are working on X project, we would like some resident input, and we are going to work together with residents and staff in order to get that project completed. And so, for example, right now we're celebrating Active Aging Week, and that actually used to be taken care of by a committee, and we kind of realized that it would make more sense to be a task force because that committee really just wanted to focus on that one event. So think of a task force as more of a short term, we've got a goal, when we reach it, the task force dissolves. And then we also have interest groups. And these are more informal groups that get together because they have the same hobby. It's not necessarily structured per se. It's nothing that needs staff involvement unless they'd like staff involvement. But that would be like our knitting groups or residents that play cribbage on a weekly basis. So we have quite a few different ways to get involved. Another big thing I'd like to mention for you today before we jump in is that we don't have an activities director in independent living. And that's kind of a beauty here at RiverWoods, that we really work cohesively with committees and our groups so that our residents have input as to what we're doing. So we don't create a calendar of events for you and say, here's what you're going to do this month. A lot of times, many of the committees like Education Committee, we now have a trip interest group, will submit different presentations they'd like to have, trips they'd like to go on, and they work with the staff in community life to make those events happen. So I want to dive in a little bit further. Lisa, I'm going to have you go ahead for me. So again, what is a committee? And this is what we're going to focus on today. It's a formal structure. So there's a mission statement that benefits RiverWoods that has been approved by the resident council. There is an elected chair. There is an annual budget. And they have a staff liaison. So someone like myself, I've been on quite a few committees as a staff liaison. We work together with that committee to move forward whatever it is that they would like to do. So maybe as a staff liaison, I'm going to help put out communications to the RiverWoods community, or I'm going to help submit their budget on an annual basis. So we work cohesively together, and the staff liaison acts as that bridge between what the residents want and what we can accomplish together here at RiverWoods. So we have quite a few committees. I believe we have 48 or 49 at the moment. What you see in front of you is a list of committees that are community-wide. So that means they happen at all 3 campuses here at RiverWoods Exeter. So Education Committee, the Reporter Committee, Trails, they are not specific to any one campus. And then we do also have committees that are specific to each individual campus based on where you live. So if you're at the Woods, you might want to participate in the Garden Committee at the Woods. Or maybe if you're at the Boulders, you want to participate in the committee store, country store, my apologies, committee just at the Boulders. And so there's different options available to you this way. So I am going to pass it on to George and Lindsay. They are going to kick us off to give us a little bit of information about what committees they participate in. And we have our panel here. We have George and Lindsay from the Woods. We have Betsy from the Woods as well, Dave and Susan from the Boulders, and Linda from the Ridge. All right, George and Lindsay, take it away.
Okay.
Thank you, Deanna. So I'm chairman of the Rescue Committee, which used to be the Environment Sustainability Committee. We recently changed our name just as a kind of a rebranding and trying to instill a little more interest and support for the committee. We also modified our mission statement to align more closely with the core values of RiverWoods. And part of that is to inform and encourage residents who want to be involved in efforts to protect our natural environment. One of the bigger things that we participate in and encourage is in the area of recycling. It's not always easy. It's always a bit of a learning curve for some people who might be moving from a different state, or some people who just aren't familiar with all of the pieces and the parts of recycling. We worked with RiverWoods and were instrumental in having some solar panels installed here at the Woods campus. And we have worked for a couple of years about another project that's about to get underway in electric car charging stations. I also co-chair the Woodshop Committee here at the Woods. And the purpose of the Woodshop Committee is to make for a safe, clean area for residents to build, repair, or paint projects. We have a full shop with all the tools that anyone could need or want. It's like the garage that I left back in Connecticut. And when I moved here 3 years ago, there were 3 regular full-time users in the garage, in the wood shop. Today we have 12. So it has brought quite a bit of interest in recent years. There's another committee that I'm involved with, is Dave, who you'll hear from in a few minutes, and that's the Trails Committee. Across the 3 campuses, there's lots of trails through the woods, and our efforts maintain and repair trails as necessary. It might be building a bog bridge, or spreading some mulch or stone, removing some roots that might be a trip hazard. And although I was never really interested in a lot of yard and gardening work when I was at home, I really like being out in the woods, and it's brought me a lot of joy.
So I'm interested in art and gardening. Those are my two main focuses. So I jumped right into those committees when we first got here. And the art committee is, we kind of oversee a lot of different things that go on here. And some of them are at all the campuses, similar things. For example, we have basket weaving classes. We have Art in the Woods, which is a gallery. Each campus has a gallery area. And we have resident shows once a quarter, which involves a reception and a little talk by the artist or a group of artists. Then we have display windows, large and small, in all the campuses. And that displays different people's collections or a group, or we combine different themes to put a nice window together. And those are once a quarter. I happen to be involved in a small one, and that I change every 2 months. And those are also themed based on collections by the residents. Then we have a spotlight gallery. We have watercolor classes, Zentangle classes, these are all once a month. The watercolor classes, which you pay for, are every week. And then drawing classes. We are a very active committee. Sometimes we will sponsor speakers, field trips, and anything to do with art. And then on the garden side, I should mention that all campuses have raised beds where interested gardeners can sign up and grow flowers or vegetables, herbs, whatever they want to do. And it's a very popular thing. And they're beautiful on the campuses. Very nice to look at. We also work very much with the landscape team. They help us out and we give them ideas. We kind of go back and forth. They take care of the property, but we have a lot of plantings that we're involved with. For example, pots of flowers outside the various circles and doors, which different residents volunteer to plant and water all summer so that we have these beautiful flowers in all the good weather. I would note that our whole Woods campus, the whole Woods Exeter, RiverWoods Exeter is an arboretum, which is quite a feat to have our whole landscape be an arboretum. We have a weeder group. We have people who work on decorative things with the landscape team. So seasonal, Christmas, autumn, various things. And people with first floor patios contribute as well, because they usually have pots and are actively planting flowers for all of us to enjoy. Those are my main things. I'm part of the welcoming committee, and we're involved with welcoming newcomers to our specific area. Franconia first floor, for example, is where we are. But it's a big committee, and they're at all campuses, and it helps to welcome people and integrate them into our life.
Fabulous. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
All right, I'm going to pass it off to Betsy.
Hi, I'm Betsy Kirsch, and we've lived in RiverWoods probably 5 years to the day today. We come from Atkinson, New Hampshire, which is just 17 miles down the road, so it wasn't a big trip, but it was a big decision. And have to say, my husband Jim and I say it was the best decision we've ever made. I became involved in many things in my lifetime, and when I moved to RiverWoods, I decided I should get involved here too. It was part of my DNA, I think. At first, I became active in some display windows, and then I was on the education committee, but I really found my niche in the social committee. It's kind of a feel-good committee. We meet once a month, and we have an active membership. We provide activities that appeal to a wide variety of tastes and interests. We provide afternoon and evening events. If you can smile, pour wine, help facilitate anything, you belong in the social committee. Some of the things that we have done lately, we had a nifty 90 party where we had 81 90-year-olds who visited the site and enjoyed an entertainment. We also have monthly birthday parties also. We have monthly teas. This past September, we had a gentleman from the Ridge who is 96 years old, and he has a little trio, and it was a big hit with everyone. We like to choose people in our committees, we like to choose people that live here. Everyone is very interested in what their neighbors have done or plan to do, and these are well attended. Coming up, we have a Halloween costume party that's going to be on Halloween night. We have in the afternoon, in our afternoon tea, we would have a RiverWoods drama group that are going to provide old-time radio, which we're looking forward to. So if you're a member of the social committee, you're really a hostess. As I said, it's like a feel-good community. If you can help somebody out, we pour wine or be a guide to someone, you belong there. We have an eggnog party with Carol Singh and our RiverWoods band, which is very, very good. They play for us to sing. We do lots of holidays. We have a pizza day. We have St. Patrick's Day. We have Cinco de Mayo Day. We met this morning and we planned our events for the coming year and then into the new year. RiverWoods is so busy that we have to get our events on the calendar so that everyone will enjoy the things that we plan to do. I think it's just a great committee to be on. You don't have to work hard, but just have to be able to smile, pour wine. And one other thing we do, we have fireside chats in the wintertime where with a unique system, we choose the last letter of people's apartment and they meet probably 3 times during the winter for wine and cheese and chit chat. So as you can see, we're very, very busy.
Thank you so much, Betsy. All right, I am going to pass it off to Dave and Susan.
Hello there. This is Dave and Susan. When we moved, prior to our moving here a little over 7 years ago, we were very active with various groups down in Connecticut. So when we came here, we already were familiar with several of the groups, but we also looked around and said, how can we help out the community and be active in our own right? So we both joined the communications committee. I joined the trails. Susan became involved with the library committee and dining, and I'll let her talk about those things. One of the things with regards to the communications committee, what our goal is to try to enhance communications and interaction amongst residents and staff. And we also like to take it upon ourselves to influence staff to the betterment of the residents. Now, in part of that, what we do is prior to the audiovisual upgrades in the major halls, several of our members would record the various meetings like the resident council or talks by the executive director. And then these would be put up on the portal and would be available for everybody that couldn't make it. We also, since many of us are on the techie side, we established a group that would help out residents with their computers, cell phones, and whatever, where, you know, you get into the usual thing. My grandchild did the following with it, and I have no clue what's going on anymore. Well, we're not grandkids, but we helped out people with that. As George was talking about on the Trails Committee, we've got about 3 miles plus of trails that encircle the 3 campuses here. And so we, pardon? Oh, yeah.
He
Sorry.
was jiggling me, so I'm
Sorry,
telling him not
sorry.
to.
Anyway, and so what we do is we maintain the trails, walk the trails, keep the shrubs back. If a tree falls down across them, if it's a small one, we take care of it, or we work hand in hand with landscaping and they take care of them. And so it was very helpful to meet with both of these committees, members, other residents of the 3 campuses, since these committees are not limited to just one particular campus.
As Dave mentioned, I'm on the library committee. Actually, I was chair for 4 years, and I'm also on the dining committee, both of which I joined, let's say within a day or two of coming to RiverWoods, because those are 2 of my interests. I love to read, always have. And in terms of dining, I love food. I love to cook. I love eating. So those were right up my alley, and I'm still active in both. Dave was talking about the communications committee. We also do write a monthly article for the Reporter, which you might have seen. The Reporter is a monthly in-house produced newsletter. When I say newsletter, you might be thinking, oh, it's 1 or 2 pages. No, it runs anywhere from 16 to 24 pages. So there's a lot going on in it. Articles by residents, announcements of the various events, the social activities at the various campuses. So it's, I think, highly anticipated when it's to be published, and it has a lot of good information in it. I'm on that committee. One of the things I do is I proofread. My mother was very strict in terms of grammar and such, so I'm a bit of a stickler for spelling and punctuation and word usage and the like. I do actually get a kick out of that. We do have not only a raised bed garden, but also a planted area outside of our first floor apartment. Many people do, and if you have such an area, it's up to the residents to take care of it. And we get a lot of pleasure out of planting various things. And as I think it was Lindsay mentioned, people drive around and see what we have planted. I think also that residents of the nearby communities, and by that I mean just residential areas, they walk through, ride their bikes through, walk their kids through, push them in strollers all around our campus, which makes us feel very integrated to the larger town. And I think they enjoy our gardens and the like, and the fact that it's a pretty stress-free area to have your kids in, because the traffic is light and slow. So I think that's another just a way of feeling as though you're truly part of the town of Exeter. We also, Dave and I, do some other things outside the community. So don't think that just because you move here, this is all you're going to be able to do. We're active members of our church, as are many people here. I take care of the altar linens a couple of times a month. And we also have a small motorhome, and we travel in that from spring through fall periodically. It's just a little one. No, you can't park one here. You have to find an outside storage place, but there are several within just a few miles, so that's not a problem at all. Let's see. I think that's all I wanted to talk about. So I look forward to any questions people might have later.
Thank you. All right, Linda, you're up.
Okay. My name is Linda Vandekar. I moved into the Ridge in April of 2022 from Northampton, New Hampshire. So again, I was fairly close by. So I've maintained several of the things that I was doing previous to moving into Riverwoods, as well as taking on some new aspects when I moved to Riverwoods. So like Lindsay and Susan, I'm into gardening. So I'm part of the garden committee here at the Ridge, and have worked a lot with the landscape committee, working on what their projects. But my main focus has been on three campus committees, meaning those that go across the whole community. So I'm on the education committee, and we are responsible for programming what are called education meetings, but they are presentations. We do about 40 a year, which go and are made and produced for all three campuses to get together and enjoy together. So each members of the committee take a program from concept and inception all the way through to the presentation and writing a thank you note to whoever did the presenting. And in the process, we deal with the presenters to find out what their needs are going to be. And we coordinate with the Riverwood staff to how the room needs to be set up, what audio visual requirements are required, see if the presenter wants to come and have dinner beforehand, and, you know, just different things like that. But as a group, we get together once a month and we discuss all the upcoming program and what the results of previous programs were to see if they were well received or not. So it keeps us very busy. There's always a lot of competition for room space because there's just so much going on around here. But recent programs we've had, we just completed last week a program on artificial intelligence, which was an attempt to bring residents up to speed on the history of how it all got started and sort of bringing up to date. So as they're reading about things in the newspaper or seeing things on the news, they'll have some idea of what's going on and not just sort of do a knee-jerk reaction that it's really all terrible. But anyway, so we also have artistic presentations. We had a former ballerina come in the fall who told us her story about escaping from Hungary in 1957. And she moved to this country, became a prima ballerina, danced with Nureyev and Baryshnikov. And she has started the New England Ballet Company. And so a week after she gave her presentation, she brought some of her students here and they gave us a performance of what they were planning on doing for their next recital type of thing. We also have residents who are willing to share from their experiences what they've done during their life. We have one woman who has been a storyteller / portrayer of other people's lives, and she gave us a wonderful program on Susan B. Anthony, and we all learned a lot. So after that, we have many people who come in from the local area who will tell us about what they're doing. We recently had one of the tugboat captains come who operates a tugboat in Portsmouth Harbor and told us about his experience of working the river and going out into the channel and bringing the tankers in that come in. So we have a variety of things going on all the time, and it's always a challenge to come up with new ideas as to what to present and try to figure out what residents from all three campuses would be interested in. So we're always chatting amongst ourselves and trying to come up with different things to do. I also serve on the Charitable Funds Committee, which is a group which is sort of mission directed to serve the purpose of the not-for-profit and charitable concept that RiverWoods was founded on. So we meet once a month to decide what we are going to do with the funds that are raised during our annual appeal, which is held in March of every year. We have 5 different funds that we are responsible for. Several of them provide scholarships for either RiverWoods staff members or their children or their grandchildren. We have one fund that is specifically for Seacoast residents who wish to work towards their nursing license. And as well as that, we make donations to local charities, such as Seacoast Family Promise, which helps families that need to get into housing, help them make the transition and works with them. We this year made a donation to the Exeter Fire Department for a piece of equipment that they were really happy to receive to put on their ambulance. And we try to find things that we can do within the RiverWoods community itself. So this summer, we've decided that we would lease 3 low vision machines, which will be one in each building, to allow people who have sight impairment to be able to either read documents that they need to read, or they can just bring a book down and read that. And they're in the process of getting installed now. So that we're looking forward to that all happening so that people can take part in that. I also, as I said, I do have a raised bed. And so I'm on the Ridge Garden Committee, and we do a lot of interacting with the Landscape Committee. I too am on the Welcoming Committee, and it's really fun to help people try to answer people's questions that they come up with when they move in, and try to help them acclimate to the community. And I work at the country store here at the Ridge, and that's fun. On Thursdays, I get to sit and chat with people who are really my neighbors in my own building, and just have a chance to talk with them about what's going on in their lives and what they see happening around. So it's really fun. It's a good way to meet people. As a single person, I've really found it sort of challenging to move from a house of my own into this big building with all these people. And I found the committees really were a fun way to get to meet people, and especially people from other campuses, which is one reason I like the 3 campus committees, because you can go to a program on any campus and you'll run into somebody that you know. And that's encouraging. And it makes RiverWoods, instead of just being a place to live, it sort of makes it all 3 campuses your home, so that you have connections everywhere. And so that's my experience, and I really strongly suggest that people become involved when they get here.
Linda, thank you so much. It's so interesting, having worked here for 5 years and worked closely with all of you and been a part of committees, to hear this again just is so inspiring. And you all do such amazing work. It's incredible. So thank you. It looks like we have some fabulous questions coming into the chat. Before I jump into those questions and answer, if you are watching, feel free to drop any questions you have in that chat box down below for the Q&A. But I have a question for our panelists here. What has been the single best thing about joining a committee for you? What would you say?
Well, I'll join in. You just meet such nice people. When I joined the social committee, I was welcomed with open arms, and all of a sudden I had 12 people that I hadn't met before, and we're still working together harmoniously, and it was great. The same thing with the Education Commission when I was on it, and I met a dear friend when I was doing the display windows. So it was a wonderful place to just get involved. And it was something that I did all my life. So I would recommend it to anyone who likes to do that sort of thing. I did.
I would have to agree with that. Meeting other people, but making really good friends, working together on various parts of the committees. Usually there are, lots of parts and pieces to committees. So you meet more and more people. It's really fun.
I'll second what Linda and Lindsay said. Additionally, for me, it's being able to influence what goes on here for the good of other residents. In the library committee, we are able to propose a budget, and we buy new books. And so we are providing for people's reading interests. In terms of dining, we're able to influence what is served. I'm not saying that we have carte blanche, but we can say, hey, why don't you consider doing this? Or what about that hasn't really gone over well, or if you could change it in some way? So there are things that one can do just to make things better here, and I get a kick out of being able to do that.
Yeah, it also gives you an opportunity, like with trails, to have a usually positive influence or an impression on our neighbors in the surrounding neighborhoods. People love to walk their dogs, walk their kids on the trails. It routinely, when we're doing a project, putting a new bridge in or doing something, we'll get a flock of people going by and we all stop and they thank us profusely that for giving them the opportunity to be able to make use of these. And it gives a good impression of us to the folks that are usually young families out and around. We're not just that bunch of old folks over there.
All right, so I am going to jump into the Q&A. So we have a couple of questions asking, what does the dining committee do? Susan, would you mind answering that?
Not at all. We meet once a month with the people in our own kitchen. Generally, it will be the chef, it'll be the dining room manager. Sometimes it'll be the executive chef over all the 3 campuses. We talk about what has been served in the last month. We review the comment cards, both positive and negative, about certain dishes. Interestingly, there are certain things where we'll get a whole lot of thumbs up and a whole lot of thumbs down for the same dish. Fascinating. We are able to do things like suggest, I'll just give one example. A few years ago, several of us were talking about tourtière, or the French Canadian meat pie, which is typically made for the holidays. Dave and I dug out his mother's recipe. We gave it to dining, and guess what? It's been featured every year around the holidays, not just at our campus, but at the other 2. And it seems to have gone over really well. So we do things like that. We will suggest, hey, how about changing the dish this way? A lot of people like gravy, but they don't want it on their meat. They want it separate so they can control the amount they want. I think we've been successful with things like that. We also are able to suggest things for the bistro. It's a little store adjunct to the pick up lunch and go section at each campus. So we're able to say, hey, how about carrying this kind of juice in addition to that kind of juice? And things like that are considered. Sometimes it happens, not always. You can't expect everything to happen, but I hope that is a little bit more info about dining.
Thank you. All right, we also have a question about the welcoming committee. What are the most common challenges in settling in for new residents? Lindsay, would you like to answer that?
It's kind of a funny one, but we have found that one of the first things they want to know is, where's the laundry bag? So you have to show them, and so many times it's on a weekend or it's off hours, and we walk them down to the laundry, and you can pick up your laundry bag there. They assign, they label it, and they label your sheets when you send them down. That's that's a funny first thing. Another thing that is something we really work with is the recycling and letting the newcomers know about recycling. I think there's actually something going into the packages now regarding recycling. We have, a tote bag full of all kinds of information that we give to the new residents, and are just open for questions. So
Thank you.
One of the things that I think is important for the welcoming committee to do is to actually take the new residents to dinner one time when their first week when they're here, because it's really, for a lot of people, I've talked to, they just say that that was the one thing that they were really concerned about. And so it's nice to know that they've got a friendly face that they can walk into the dining room with.
Yeah.
So,
Absolutely. All right, we have another question. What is the resident council and how does it relate to the committees? Do any of the residents want to answer that, or would you like me to?
I think you can do a good job.
Okay, so think of the resident council like a larger committee that is a little bit of a bridge between administration and the CCRC board and our CEO and our residents. It kind of gives the residents a voice that way. There's also committee liaisons on the resident council. So they are kind of, to a degree, governing that the committees are doing what they say they're going to do. They're following their mission, they're active, and they kind of go back and forth. So think of them like a higher umbrella that kind of oversees the committees, if you will. All right, we have another question. How far away from Exeter are excursions, and is transportation provided? So we will do an excursion pretty far, depending on what the trip is. We technically have a radius of 25 miles that we try to keep most of our programs and groups and trips to, but we will go to Boston. As long as we have enough people to go, we'll either use our in-house transportation through campus services, or we will outsource it. So we have used like Great Bay Limousine or a coach bus company, depending on where we're going to go. For example, Red Sox trips, we've gone, Boston Symphony Orchestra, we've gone. And again, those are all trips that have been taken into consideration through resident input. So yes. All right, next question. Is there a committee to coordinate taking courses at the University of New Hampshire? I do not believe there is a committee that is doing that.
But
No,
you could start one.
Yeah,
but you could start one.
there are residents here who belong to Ollie.
yes.
And I'm not going to try to remember what the acronym stands for, but there is a branch of Ollie at the University of New Hampshire and other centers around here. And I believe those folks get together. There's also an awful lot of ex-academics from UNH and other locations who are more than happy to chit-chat with people about furthering education or going to events and such at the various universities and colleges around here.
Okay. OLLI stands for OSHA Lifelong Learning Institute.
Okay.
And I first came to RiverWoods a long time ago, I think when the Boulders first opened, and attended an OLLI symposium that was being held here. The education committee sometimes interacts with the OLLI people and brings program. We'll have a speaker come talk from there. We also have many ex-professors or active professors at UNH come and talk to us via the education committee. In fact, this month, we are having their political science people come before the election and after the election to sort of give us a preview of what they see is going to happen, and then afterwards sort of telling us why it happened. So we interact with UNH quite a bit on the education committee.
Great. All right, so we still have quite a few questions left. So is it easy for a newbie to join a book club, wine club, mahjong group, etc.? What would you say?
Yes,
Yes.
it is easy.
You show up and you're in.
Yes.
Typically, new folks come here. Actually, they are approached by committee members once we've read their resume to see, oh, they did this and they did that. Many of us, however, give them a several-week breathing period while they're trying to get settled in and such. But it is very easy to join pretty much any committee. that is existing, and as was stated, if there's something that's really near and dear to your heart, there's many people who would be willing to give you a hand getting it up and running.
And in terms of the existing committees, you're always welcome to come to a meeting and just observe. There's no obligation to join just because you came to a meeting. You might say, this is not for me, or you might say, yeah, I'd like to join, but not for a few months because I'm still really busy getting moved in and settled. All those are fine.
We also have many of our groups and committee meetings are on our bi-weekly calendar that we publish through Community Life. So residents can look and see what's happening throughout the week, and they can go just as these residents have said as well. Any comments on the inclusion, aka Jedi committee?
They have very interesting programs. Very
Thought-provoking.
very informing. Yes, very informing.
Wonderful. Next question. Does the wood shop have a wood lathe?
It does. It's not a large one. You wouldn't be doing table legs, but it's a good lathe. It's a newer lathe. And we have 3 people currently that do they're turning bowls on it.
George, do you know if there's a lathe over at the Ridgewood shop?
So the Ridgewood shop actually has 2 lathes. I'm not sure exactly how it works. There's a larger lathe that's actually a metal turning lathe, but with gouges, it works just as well for wood. They also, not too long ago, acquired a small turning lathe because someone wanted to make wood pens.
Fabulous. What size are the raised garden beds, and how are they shared or allocated to the residents?
They're 8x4 generally. And when you join, if you have an interest in having one, you put your name into whoever at your campus coordinates that. There may or may not be a vacant one. So you might have to wait a few years, but people either lose interest or become unable to care for their bed. So there's always a turnover. So, never lose hope. Might be a year or 2, but sometimes you just luck out. It depends. That's how you get it.
And some of the beds are shared.
That's right.
Where somebody wants to grow tomatoes, but that's it, and somebody else would like flowers. Well, they don't want 4x8 full of tomatoes, so they share the bed.
They're also building more raised beds in some places. I know here at the Woods, they're looking at that.
Yes, they built some more. Actually, they moved the beds that were over by Gooch Park over by the goats.
Mhm.
So
Right.
there are more beds being available.
All right. Are committee memberships capped at a certain number? For instance, could there be 100 people on a committee? I am not aware of any technical number.
No.
There is no technical number, but I will say on the all community camp committees, they try to have it proportioned by the number of residents on a campus. For instance, the Ridge, our education committee, we have 3 from the Ridge, we have 3 from the Boulders, and I think there are 5 from the Woods because there are more people at the Woods. So I think they try to do that. I know the charitable funds is proportioned that way too, as is the resident council, and anything that's three, the whole community, they try to make it so it's evenly divided amongst all the campuses.
We
And-
try, but it's not always possible.
Right, but they,
ComCom is an example. There are very few of us from the Boulders on it. Just, that's how it's happened, and I'm sure it will change in the future.
Mm.
In terms of the committees that are at a single campus, we've never restricted the quantity on dining or library. In fact, occasionally, depending on what's going on, we're really scrabbling for more members. You know, someone decides they're not interested in more, they're no longer capable of being on the committee. So we're looking for new members, and sometimes it takes a while to entice someone.
In the social committee, we have many people, especially men, who don't want to go to meetings and be obligated, but they help out in many ways. They like to just come in and help us, and we graciously take their help.
I know at the Woods, the formal committees, I don't think there's any kind of number that, you know, everybody can be on those committees. There's no restrictions.
Deanna, I just want to jump in here. We got quite a few questions left, so I want to try to maybe do a kind of speed round of getting through the rest of these, because we have 3 minutes left in our presentation.
All right, ready? Are events still recorded by individual members, or has that process become more formalized? I think in terms of like physically recording, we would either ask the ComCom committee to help us record it, or we are waiting on our rooms to have the AV capability to record. If you mean record as in like meeting minutes, then yes, that is still done by an individual and is written out. Our next question, more information on photography and bridge committees. Does anyone here have ever been a part of photography or bridge?
Did you say bridge?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, there is a bridge club, the duplicate bridge club that
Yep.
is open to anyone who plays bridge and wants to be competitive. And there's many bridge games that go on in, I can speak for the Woods, that go on almost every day, where you get a group of 4 and they play bridge.
And on the,
All kinds of games.
you know, with regards to the photography committee, that's been re-energized over the last couple of years. And the photography room over at the Ridge has been upgraded. And I know that the photography group is quite active nowadays.
All right, someone asks, haven't heard anything about pickleball. Surprisingly enough, is there a large group of players? So pickleball is quite active, but it is not a formal committee. It is a group of residents that get together and pick times to play. Let's see, are there woodshop classes?
No,
Can someone in the woodshop help to build something for a resident?
yes,
Is there a pottery studio? If so, what kind of kilns are available?
The Ridge.
There is one at the Ridge, and we have a kiln downstairs in the garage, but I can't tell you what kind it is.
Are there several different book clubs? How many, and do they have different emphasis? Fiction, nonfiction, biographies, etc.
There are 2 at the Boulders. I don't believe there are different emphases.
Yeah.
I don't know about the ones at the Ridge or the Woods.
And,
Yeah, more than one at the Woods.
and
Yes.
so sorry. Are bird feeders allowed? Yes, they are. However, landscaping does give residents guidelines on when they need to come in based on the season. All right.
Okay, excellent job speeding through those last few questions. I tried to answer some of them through just writing an answer, but if you have further questions that remain unanswered, you can speak with any of our sales counselors about that. I hope this has been helpful for you. It's been really fun for me to hear from our resident panelists. I want to thank you all for being so generous with your time, as well as, you know, time invested in these committees, because it really is the residents' leadership in these committees that really creates wonderful life here at RiverWoods Exeter. So thank you all for being on today. Thanks to those of you joining. We do have an upcoming webinar on Tuesday, October 22nd from 1 to 2 p.m. on the financial risks and rewards of choosing a life care committee. It will feature Kevin Goyette, who's our CFO, and a gentleman from the Ziegler Group. So please register on our website or scan this QR code. Thank you, Deanna, for moderating today. And thank you all the panelists, and thanks to all those who attended, and have a great day.
Thank you.
Take care.
You?
Thank you.